Guy Bellamy.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Internet Seriously.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
It's such a pleasure to have you on the show.
It's great to be here. What a lovely studio as well.
Isn't it good?
Absolutely
Isn't it
marvellous.
good? Igor, Charlie, Alice, the team, everything.
And it's in Oxford.
And it's in Oxford.
Yes.
I thought we just mentioned that. So, as well as running a very successful PR consultancy, Elephant Communications, you also have... you also started a radio station in lockdown.
In lockdown, yeah, the first week.
Why did you do that?
Well, I used to do a show a bit like your podcast, for me, outside my day job. And then I packed it in. And then a week after I packed it in, we went into lockdown. And everyone was stuck in their homes and couldn't go out. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be a great thing to do, to have radio in lockdown, because you can't do anything. So I set one up, and I had an old knackered caravan at the end of my garden, which had been collecting garden furniture for summer after summer. And I thought, it can't be that hard. So I actually did it the wrong way round. I paid for all the PRS and the licensing, so I was committed. And then realised I didn't have any kit. So I thought, well, I have to get the kit now because I paid for it. And it was just one of those... it was just one of those wonderful things. And I think, we're talking about some serious industry issues later, or you are. But I think the thing not to lose sight of are the many wonderful things that the internet actually enables. And for my little story, in lockdown, I set up a little radio station, broadcast each weekend, and it played a really wonderful role, beyond what I expected, to keep people across the UK, even in Finland, with listeners in Sweden, connected as an online community when we couldn't leave the house, supported grassroots bands when they couldn't play shows and couldn't record. And it was all made possible because of this thing called the internet.
Can I just interrupt? Sorry, setting up a radio station. When I last heard about people setting up a radio station, they had to, what was it called? Tony, I can't remember.
Aerials on things.
The aerials on things, and get a boat and float in the sea and call it Radio Caroline after your girlfriend.
Well, I have to say, the caravan's on clay. And when it rained, it did feel like a boat. It had like a motor around it.
Yeah, but isn't it a big deal to get a licence? Or are you...
Internet radio, there's a whole new classification now with community radio as well, but internet radio. So you have to get your licensing done, you have to do your PRS and PPL and do all the right things, which...
Is it expensive?
Not for it's largely based on also how big your audience is. Right. So let's just say
so if you're starting up,
it starts cheap, and then you want to...
And then you don't care.
Well, then you want to manage your success, because you think it's nice to have listeners, but it's expensive. No, it's just... The thing that was nice about it for me, and I'm not a techie, I learned a lot of skills. I learned how, it's a bit like your podcast, you learn how to get things and put them together. And I think that was one of the great things looking back on COVID, despite the enormous hardships, pressures, fears we all had each day, particularly before the vaccine, is actually for many people, it also brought out a spirit of defiance, of resilience, of innovation. I never would have imagined to set up a radio station had it not been because of where I found myself. And there's a kind of sense of rebellion in it, because you want to keep normality going. And it was a journey. And I think the highlight of it in August 2020, in the second lockdown, is I kept doing new things. And I thought, let's do a festival. And we did a 3-day music festival on the station.
Sorry, in your caravan.
So was that like... So did you have breaks when you slept?
No, it was non-stop. It was a festival.
So it's sort of like an online Glastonbury.
It was 5 to 11 on Friday, and then breakfast till midnight Saturday and Sunday.
What do you mean Glastonbury? We haven't talked about the content of the...
That follows. So anyway, but we had 107 bands do sets.
You're joking.
And we had we had all-female headliners. We had Deborah Bonham headlining Sunday. We had Melissa Etheridge from the States doing Saturday
Was this still in lockdown?
Yeah. And it was all
how
on
did
the radio.
The bands get together?
Well, the bands either did live streams or they recorded sets from their bathrooms, from their kitchens, from their whatever.
Amazing.
And then we had a well-being theme to it as well, because obviously well-being is important to musicians. It's important to us. It got locked down. So people who couldn't record, we did 30 or 40 interviews on well-being and mental health and the arts and the role it plays.
Wow.
And it just went out non-stop. And the audience figures were great. And I felt as it was happening. I thought,
but also music, don't you think, has a huge role in well-being for your listeners as well as the musicians themselves?
I think I mean, it's a separate issue, but the tragedy facing grassroots venues and grassroots music, and particularly with lockdown and the pressures that cast, I think the weekend did something very special. But it wouldn't have happened had we not gone into COVID, and it had to happen.
But it's also an example of how technology has enabled you to do something that would have been really beyond the means of a single person, just almost on a whim deciding to do something. But, your business, PR, the press, has had a huge assault really over the last 30 years from technology. I mean, I was looking for up-to-date figures. The most recent I could find was from 2008, where they reckoned something like 70% of newsroom jobs had been lost over the last 25 years. How has the job of PR changed with technology, and how has Elephant managed to survive and thrive in that really tough environment?
I don't see it as a conflict. And I think because our business, we had an office before COVID, and we had whiteboards and the things PR firms have, bean bags and all those perfect curve things, joking. We went into lockdown. We had to learn how to adjust to lockdown with our servers, with using the cloud. I'm not very techie again, but we learned. And then we worked a way of working, of talking 3 times a day, of brainstorming online. By the end of lockdown, no one wanted to go back to the office. So in some ways, technology enabled us. But I also think with communications, something I've noticed since lockdown, and I think we've discovered ourselves, the old-fashioned stuff of meeting people face-to-face for briefings, for exclusives, which you've done, has actually never been more relevant. So I think technology is an enabler. I think it cuts the fat out, actually.
Right. We're drifting into your online business, which I want to talk to you about in a bit. Well, Emily does, but I'm not.
The online business.
Well, there's more to say about why you've remained online. But before we do that, I just want to stick for 1 minute on the radio station thing, because you got Guy Bellamy, PR, and why music? You could have had a talk show. I know that you're shy in retiring and find it difficult to talk.
You don't like to talk very much.
But why?
Very shy.
Why music? And it's a rhetorical question, because I know the answer, because a lot of your clients are related to music. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, we've got music clients. We work for a number of major orchestras. The Royal Philharmonic is the most long-standing.
Wow.
We support a few grassroots music festivals. We work for a few American blues singers, as well as doing corporate and other work. But I think your question about the radio is probably a bit like you with the podcast. You sometimes just want to step aside and do something fun and do something a bit free. And I actually didn't, when I started my show, I didn't know a lot about the indie bands I was focusing on. So it was a chance to learn something.
Yeah, Kieran, yesterday we were talking about the importance of fun at work. We're doing a lot of threat detection. We're doing a lot of internet governance. We're talking a lot about the internet as an industry, grey and dry, and how we need this kind of outlet. What do you think about that?
I was just thinking about what I did during lockdown. I renovated my entire house, and my wife learned how to bake sourdough. But and I think we all found our little.
We all found new skills, didn't we?
Yeah, and I loved it. The question I have for you is there a recording of it, or was it just it was done and it's out there and it was a moment?
One of my being old-fashioned, I do have some desk copy stuff, but the whole point was it's live.
Yeah.
If you miss it, it's not on Mixcloud. You can't listen again, because there was such a community of people that used to tune in and talk to each other on Twitter while the music was playing. That, I think, in lockdown was it was the social aspect. Yeah. So social media linking in. People who lived on their own could meet people each weekend and make friends. And so I just think it's something I finished now, because with lockdown, you've all got to get out your caravans. But for me, I'm often quite critical of the internet and apps and AI, and I get very victim elder about things. But I think the thing none of us must lose sight of is the internet in its essence is about wonderful outcomes which are possible, and that's, I think, what we also need to time.
That comes to the next point I want to really am interested in is how a PR company. You say you've sort of remained an online business and what that means. Before we go on to that, next it's time for our Guilty Pleasure Online. We have the little dance. Thank you, Guy. Perfect.
Very nice
Guy
moves.
Bellamy.
I feel like one of the Nolans.
Nice moves.
Oh, right. Well, we'll come back to that.
That's guilty. That's guilty.
Oh, yes.
That really sets an epoch there. Guy Bellamy, what is your guilty pleasure?
It links to the radio thing, and it's something I do every Thursday. And it might mean I have to throw a question to you, but I'm one of the things where I'm very old school is I still enjoy listening to physical music and buying books. So the Kindle and streaming don't do it for me. And one thing I do as a little treat every Friday is I go on to banned websites, occasionally Amazon, but often banned web stores, and I treat myself to 2 albums. And they arrive on Saturday morning. Now, because it's a Friday, I haven't done it because I'm not in the office.
Right.
So I want to throw it open to you. What might be a nice guilty pleasure album to buy on a Friday to arrive tomorrow?
Oh, we were listening to
Dire Straits.
Thank you. We've been there, Guy, and actually you bought me a great box set of Dire Straits Live, which I think is absolutely wonderful.
Can I ask what the format is? Is it CD or is it vinyl?
CD.
Classical CD, because you don't want hisses and jumps and you don't want to turn it over. If it's blues, jazz or rock, vinyl.
So I was listening, I've been thinking a lot about Ireland recently, which is where my family are from, and I suddenly remembered we went to Ireland over Christmas and had a walk around Dorky, and Dorky is where
you're not building
Bono
up to
lives.
Westlife, are you?
I'm not building up to do you remember Enya?
Oh yeah, Orinoco Ding Dongs.
Yeah,
She had
and
a castle.
I haven't
She's
even
got a
listened
castle.
to Enya for ages, and also her family band, which was Clannad, which was huge.
They were
Do you remember
great.
the theme
Clannad
from
were
Hello
great.
Harry's game? So I was thinking, gosh,
What's the big Enya one?
Orinoco.
How does that go?
No, I was going to say
Sail away, sail away.
Don't, guys. But the one thing I was going to say,
Why not?
there is certain music you can sing in the shower, the Radox Power Scrub in the morning, but Enya is not one of them.
No. Well, she did all that vocal layering.
It's very layering.
I got 2 recommendations. One is Sabrina Carpenter, who is a new hot young thing, and she's put out in vinyl, and she's done it old school. The whole design
Recorded
is
analog stuff.
Like you can open it out.
It's like what's it called? The double spread.
Oh,
Gatefold.
yes.
Gatefold.
Yeah.
And so she's done it very 70s style, and that's what all the kids listen to.
I used to love opening up.
Michael Jackson.
Reading the lyrics and seeing the
Just
pictures.
studying it, looking at the
does.
pictures.
I haven't got a particular ask, but what you've been doing, I notice, is tidying up our classical CD sets.
Few
and saying,
suggestions.
Chuck away that, put that
one
straight
went in the bin. One went in the bin. Yeah.
Yes. And sending us then some beautiful recordings. So I don't know the publisher that you consistently say no, that's crap. Throw that in the bin. It's Deutsche
Grammophon. It's just nice for me. Well, as a dad, as a walking the dog, having children, all the lovely stuff. For me, it's just nice to wake up on a Saturday and either have a new record to put on or a new book to look at. It's just a little lift for the weekend, and I do it all online.